Hey folks, my name is Mike. This is KEI Fabrication and welcome to my shop. And this is my most recent project, and this is my shop truck, my daily driver, my race truck, my garbage truck, and my all-around performance vehicle. It is a junkyard build where we drag two vehicles out of two different junkyards and combine them to make one performance vehicle. If you want to follow along with the channel, you can see the progress of the build on this truck and all the modifications that have been made. So this truck has already been to car shows, it's been road racing, it's been drag racing, and it's been circle track racing. So we've got a bunch more new projects in the queue. We're looking forward to meeting more of you. And for those of you who've been with the channel for a while, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your comments and the interaction and encouragement. I hopefully through this project we've gained some credibility with you folks. And let's see what's coming up next. Okay folks, gotta go pay the bill at the parts store. Hey folks, I'm in for my routine oil change here. I'm a little stressed out. This week, earlier in the week, I noticed that my oil pressure gauge had dropped like 10 psi. Now it still has plenty of oil pressure. It's the same oil pressure that my 97 Vortec motor has, which is 20 psi idle hot in gear and about 40 going down the highway. However, up until last week, it used to be at least 10 psi above that, and I always was kind of encouraged by that and took some comfort in it. So I just changed the oil to see if for some reason, you know, maybe the oil just plain old was ready, or the filter had an issue or something to that effect. I don't think that that really has any impact on it. And then the next thing, so I'm going to start it up, let it warm up, see what the oil pressure is, and then if that doesn't do anything, the next is I'm just going to double check my gauge. I did buy an inexpensive mechanical gauge. I have another one that I can try just to do a comparison. So if it dropped 10 psi and the gauge is okay, something happened in the engine. I don't know if it's the oil pump return pressure relief, or you know, a cam bearing going away, or you know, maybe I touched down a rod bearing or something like that. But anyway, I'm stressed out a little bit. It's not showing any extra noise. It doesn't make any other thing. It's not doing anything different than it did for the last year and a half driving it. So, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have an issue. So I'm going to investigate it a little more and I'll let you know what happens. Alright, here we go to see what happens with another gauge. I mean, this is an even less expensive aftermarket gauge than the one that I normally run, but it's consistent in reading. I really think something happened where I lost, I'm estimating at least 10 pounds of oil pressure, or somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 pounds of oil pressure. I hope it's just something in the oil pressure relief spring or something like that, but again, it's never gone lower than 20 psi, even hot idle. So I'm not concerned. The only thing I'm really concerned about is it's different than what it was a week ago. So I'm just trying to diagnose things and see if I'm in for some issues down the road. My plan is to just drive this thing for the rest of the winter and keep monitoring this stuff. We'll see what happens. Not too happy, still very concerned. Well folks, I don't know what I did, but it's back to where it should be. You can see I'm up to full operating temperature. I'm idling with my foot on the brake, in drive, stopped, and the oil pressure is back up to 35 psi. This is what I'm used to seeing. Earlier in the week when I was driving down the highway, it would go to 40 psi at 2,500 RPM, and as soon as I returned to getting off the highway and stop at a stop sign, it would go right down to 20 psi at an idle. This is what it used to be, so I have no idea what happened. Maybe with the fresh oil change, if something was hanging up in the pressure relief valve, it's loose, or the fact that I took one gauge and put another gauge in, if there was an air pocket in the gauge or something. I don't know, but I'm breathing a little easier. I'm going to monitor the situation, but man, I'd really be psyched if whatever issue it was, if it was even an issue, is fixed. But now the oil pressure really is exactly what it used to do. I'm only at 1,200, 1,400 RPM, and it's already up closer to 45 to 50 psi. So see if I get on it a little bit. Heads right up to 55 psi. That's what it used to do. And all week long, this week, it was the max I could get out of it was 40 psi. So I definitely am breathing a little easier. It's behaving exactly as it used to, and as it has since the day I put in the engine. It's been as good as you see it right now. I just not sure what happened. I'm thankful that it seems to be resolved. I don't know if it was just a reading of the gauge or some mechanical issue with the pressure relief valve, but well, I'm just going to keep you posted. I'll monitor it this week, see what happens, and maybe it was just telling me it was time for an oil change. So anyway, we'll keep you posted. Alright folks, it's the next day and my oil pressure is returned as it did the other day. It's been rock solid. Right now it's up to temperature and it's in drive, idling, and I've got 35 psi, which is what it used to have. Going down the highway, it's rock solid at 50 psi, where before it was struggling to maintain 40. And if I was in drive right now at full temperature, it would be down to 20 previously, before the problem went away. So I fully believe that something was hanging up in the pressure relief valve in the oil pump. I really can't justify it in my head any other way. But I just came back from a 120-mile excursion. I bought something off of Craigslist. It was a little bit of a drive. I always like doing that. It's always fun. But the whole trip, it was fine. And so far so good. I'm very, very, very relieved. So anyway, I'll keep you posted. Hey folks, it's a couple days after Christmas, and my son and his fiance bought me this Tach with a shift light on it, and I'm in the process of installing that. I had to dig into the dash. If you remember, I put the Silverado dash in the Mazda when I did the engine swap. So I've got to pull the dash out. I've got it all apart here. So the main wire connector for the Silverado dash is right at 12 o'clock in the center. So I'm going to pull the dash out. I'm going to expose the white wire that's from the number 10 pin out of the PCM and hook it up to the Tach and hook up the lights and the other power things, and we'll see how it goes. Alright folks, I got the Tach installed. I wired it up as a test, and it started up and worked fine. So there we go. And got the dimmer hooked up on the lights, and it works pretty well. So that should solve my shift light problem and keep hitting the rev limiter. So once we get used to it, well, that was a couple of little things that I wanted to accomplish today, so there's one. This is just one little last thing I wanted to fix up on my dashboard. I had to remove the 12-volt auxiliary power socket from the dash because if right here where my finger is the corner of the Silverado dash, and there was no room for the socket because it was so deep into the cluster that I couldn't install this faceplate and have the dash in there. So at the time I removed it, and that's why I relocated it, you know, the two power ports over there. And what I did was I 3D printed a little blank block off cover that I'm going to apply some trim adhesive to and put it in place. So one of the last things now that my Tach is installed, and I just had all the gauges and everything out to solve the oil pressure or diagnose this oil pressure problem, which is still going good, by the way. Almost a month later, oil pressure has been rock solid, so we're good with that. So I'm going to glue this in, and that'll be it. So one of the things I've come familiar with is this 3M black weather strip adhesive. I learned about this stuff and how good it was way back when I was on a NASCAR team changing tires, and we used to glue the lug nuts to the wheels with the yellow stuff, and this is the black stuff. But man, if you ever use this stuff and you have some residual left over, wipe it off with brake parts cleaner immediately, because man, does it sticks on and it can make a real mess if it squishes out and all that other stuff. So the little plug is in place right here, so not too terrible. It fills up the hole. One of the issues I had was when you turn the dash lights on, the light was actually coming out of this little open spot. So now that I've got that plugged off, that'll eliminate that issue. Plus, I didn't need the hole there, so I might as well cover it up. And while I had the trim adhesive out, put one of the most important things I can have on my vehicle. So I got some residual here I got to clean off. And I have the fish swimming to the right because there's no way I'm headed to the left. If anybody's watching politics in the United States right now, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So that's it for this video. I'll talk to you folks soon when we come up with something else.